Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Maths in a Bag. So here we have our next bag. It's a very big bag today. So let's see what's inside this bag. Right, so here we have the quadratic formula. So what is the quadratic formula? Well, before we find out what the quadratic formula is, we need to know what a quadratic equation is. Now, a quadratic equation is basically any equation that has an x squared in it. So if the equation has an x squared, then it will probably be a quadratic equation. Now, most quadratic equations will be in the form of something like a x squared plus bx plus c. So when you have one of these equations, what you need to do is you need to find out what x is equal to. Now this equation will probably have an equals 0 on the end. So the quadratic formula looks a bit like this. It's x equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all of that divided by 2a. So if you put these numbers from the equation into this formula, that will give you whatever x is. Now you may see that here we have a plus or minus. This means that the equation will have two solutions to it. Now most of the time, if you have a question with a quadratic equation and you need to solve it using the quadratic formula, you will be allowed to use a calculator like this one. So let's try and solve this equation here with the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is x equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So all we have to do now is to put the numbers from this equation into this formula. So here you can see I've put all of the numbers into the formula. So we have minus 5, so 2 minuses, that's a plus, that's just 5. Plus or minus the square root of 5 squared minus 4 times 2 times minus 6 divided by 2 times 2. So we can simplify this a bit. So minus 5 squared, we know that's 25, so it's 5 plus or minus square root of 25 minus 4 times 2 is 8, then 8 times minus 6 is minus 48, so we're doing minus 48, so it's just plus 48, and then we're dividing it by 2 times 2, which is obviously 4. So this is a lot simpler now. So to solve this, we'll need a calculator. So we have 25 plus 48, which is 73. So if we move this to the side a bit, we've got 5, and we'll start off by doing the plus. So 5 plus the square root of 73, and then divide that by 4. So the square root of 73 is 8.544, and so on. So that would be 5 plus 8.544, which is 13.54, and then we're dividing that by 4. So we divide that by 4, we get 3.386. So let's do its 2 decimal places. So that would be 3.39. Now, because this is plus or minus, we know there are two solutions. So we'll try it with minus. So 5 minus the square root of 73 divided by 4 So 5 minus square root of 73 divided by 4 is minus 0.886, so it's 2 decimal places, that is 0.89. So we know that x is equal to 3.39 or minus 0.89. Now I have actually seen another way to solve a quadratic equation using the quadratic formula on a calculator. So on a calculator like this one, which is a Casio FX85 GT Plus, there's a button here which you can't see very well. Above there it says STO. So if you were to do shift and that's STO, and then press one of these letters here, so you've got A, B, C, D, E and F. So I'll do an example. If we have 9 and we want to store that as the letter A, for example, we could put in 9, then shift, then this store button, and then press the A button. So here it says you've stored 9 in A. So you can actually use this to solve the quadratic equations. So for example, in this quadratic equation here, we know that A is equal to 2. So I could press 2 and then this store button and then store that as the letter A. So A is now the number 2. For the minus 5, because calculators seem to struggle with squaring negative numbers, you have to put the number in brackets. So minus 5 would have to have these brackets, so minus 5, and then you store that as B, because minus 5 is B, and then the same for the minus 6, store as C, so minus 6 is C. A is 2, B is minus 5, and C is minus 6. So we can just put this straight into the quadratic formula. So we can literally just type minus B, we'll start with plus the square root of B squared minus 4AC over 2A. And when we press equals, that'll just do the entire equation. And it gives us, just like answer down here, 3.386 or 3.39 to 2 decimal places. And then when you want to change it to the minus, the negative answer, you can just change that quickly to a minus, and it gives you the negative answer. So rather than having to put all of these numbers into the formula, you can just type out the formula like this, and the calculator will do all the work for you. So using those letters to solve the quadratic equations is just like using the memory on your calculator, this memory button here that you might have used before. These letters are basically just other letters you can use, so you can store more than just one number, the M, in the memory. So now you should know what the quadratic formula is, and you should know how to use it on a calculator. So I'd like to thank you for watching this video, and it's time to put this maths back into the bag. So back into the enormous red bag it goes, as the pen slowly rolls across the table. So thank you for watching this video, and I hope to see you again in another Maths in a Bag video.